Okay, let's dive in. We're tackling one of the most persistent and, well, shadowy stories from the Nazi era today. The alleged secret device known as Die Glocke, the bell.
Right. It's quite something how this idea, which started somewhat obscurely, has just, exploded into this huge, complex web of theories over the years.
It really has. So for the next little while, we're going to try and unpack this for you. What was this thing supposed to be?
What bits of info are actually out there, if any?
Yeah, exactly. And what are some of the, frankly, pretty unsettling theories that have sprung up around it?
We'll try and give you a shortcut through the noise surrounding it all.
Help you sort of see where the lines are between maybe a tiny grain of truth and, well, outright speculation.
And I think the fact that people are still talking about Die Glocke, it points to something deeper, maybe about how we view science, secrets, that whole dark period.
It definitely makes you think. Okay, so the core claims, the really big ideas about what Die Glocke could supposedly do, it's pretty wild stuff.
Oh, absolutely. Way beyond conventional physics, or at least what was conventional then.
Like this quote captures it well. Die Glocke, German for the bell, is the name given to an alleged top-secret Nazi scientific device.
Described as a bell-shaped object, it is said to have been the focus of highly classified research at a facility in Poland.
The exact nature and purpose of Die Glocke remain shrouded in mystery, giving rise to a plethora of conspiracy theories. And that last part is key.
Definitely, because those theories, they often push right to the edge. We're talking suggestions of exotic propulsion.
Anti-gravity even, like actually defying gravity.
That's one of the big ones, yeah. Or maybe even messing with space-time itself. It's ambitious.
Ambitious is one word for it. Some accounts even whisper about time travel potential. Glimpses into the future, maybe?
It really makes you pause, doesn't it? Where do these incredibly strange ideas come from?
And then there's the power source angle. This idea that it needed some immense, incredibly dangerous energy.
Possibly linked to zero-point energy, that theoretical baseline energy in a vacuum.
Exactly. The suggestion being the Nazis were trying to tap into that, which, even today is highly speculative physics.
It's a huge leap, and it shows how, when there's a vacuum of information, imagination just rushes in to fill it. Why such extreme claims?
Good question. And it doesn't stop there. You also get these connections woven in with Nazi occult beliefs, rituals even.
Right, this idea that maybe it wasn't just technology, but some kind of blend of science and, well, mysticism, trying to harness supernatural energies.
It's a potent mix, isn't it? Cutting-edge, dangerous science meets dark ideology and the occult. Very unsettling.
And it kind of reflects that popular image, doesn't it, of the Third Reich embracing both science and these more esoteric fringe ideas simultaneously.
So how did this whole story even get started? What's the actual foundation, shaky as it might be?
A lot of it really seems to trace back to, or at least gain major traction from, a Polish author, Igor Witkowski.
His book, The Truth About the Wunderwaffe, the Wonder Weapons.
Exactly. He claimed access to transcripts of an interrogation of a former SS officer, Jacob Spornberg, and other documents. He presented alleged eyewitness accounts based on these.
And his descriptions mentioned specific, unusual details, like the construction materials.
Yes. This substance called Zerum-525, supposedly ceramic-like and crucially intensely radioactive.
That detail alone, Zerum-525, adds this layer of specific, dangerous-sounding tech. Makes it seem more concrete somehow.
It does, though it has to be said, the actual existence or properties of Zerum-525, completely unverified outside of these accounts.
Right, and then there's the location. The extreme secrecy surrounding the alleged project ties into the Dürres complex.
The Giant. This huge, unfinished network of tunnels and underground structures in the Ural Mountains, in what's now Poland.
That place is real. The tunnels exist.
Yeah.
And their sheer scale, the fact they were never finished, it fuels speculation. What were they for?
Exactly. The lack of a clear, mundane purpose for all of it leaves this huge gap that theories like Die Glocke just slot right into.
And adding a darker layer, there are these allegations of high casualties. Scientists, technicians, maybe even test subjects dying during the experiments.
Which, sadly, fits a pattern with some real Nazi projects involving dangerous materials or conditions. It lends a grim sort of plausibility, even if the specific Die Glocke claims aren't proven.
Okay, so you have these foundational elements. Witkowski's claims, Zerum-525, Dürres, alleged deaths. And from that ambiguity, the conspiracy theories just bloom.
Oh, they really do, because if you don't know what it was, you can imagine it was almost anything.
And some of those imaginations run pretty wild.
From the slightly more grounded, if still unproven, to the completely fantastical.
One of the, let's say, more conventional theories, relatively speaking, is that it was an anti-gravity weapon, a game changer for the war effort.
Right. Given the desperate situation Germany was in by 44-45, the idea they'd throw resources at anything that promised a miracle weapon isn't totally unbelievable as a motivation, even if the tech itself was impossible.
Then you leap further out, the time machine idea.
Yeah, altering history, maybe getting intel from the future. That taps into a whole different level of sci-fi thinking.
And it's powerfully unsettling, the thought of that regime with that kind of power.
Absolutely. Then it gets even weirder. Dimensional portals.
Seriously. Opening gateways to other realms, contacting other beings. It's pure Pulp Fiction territory almost.
It really shows how far the speculation can go when there are zero factual anchors.
And finally, circling back to the occult angle, that it wasn't just a weapon or a vehicle, but an occult device.
Designed to channel supernatural energies, maybe in line with Himmler's more esoteric interests or something.
Again, blending fringe science with fringe ideology.
It makes for a compelling, if disturbing, narrative.
Okay, the critical point now, the evidence. And we have to use that term very loosely here, right?
Extremely loosely. Most of what's presented as evidence is, let's say, highly debatable. It relies heavily on interpretation and unverified accounts.
Like the alleged eyewitnesses. Former SS guys, scientists, years later, claiming they saw things.
But memory is tricky, especially decades after traumatic events. And motivations can be complex. Was it genuine memory, exaggeration, disinformation? Hard to say.
Very hard. Then there's Juries itself. People point to weird structures, like the concrete henge structure nearby, sometimes called the henge.
And yes, the complex is weird. But are there more mundane explanations? Absolutely. Water towers, industrial testing rigs, unfinished conventional projects. Historians have proposed several.
So connecting it definitively to Die Glocke is a leap.
A big leap, yeah. Same with the scientists who disappeared or died.
Tragic, certainly. But linking their fates directly to Die Glocke, rather than, say, the general chaos of the war's end, Soviet capture, or other secret projects, that requires specific proof which just isn't there.
Then you get fragments in declassified documents, vague references to unusual research or code names.
Which people then interpret, perhaps overinterpret, as referring to the bell.
Right. It's easy to see patterns if you're looking for them, especially in ambiguous wartime language. The lack of specifics is the issue.
And finally, the physics itself. Tying it to real, but often misunderstood or speculative, concepts like torsion fields or anti-gravity research.
Suggesting the Nazis were somehow decades ahead of everyone else in these incredibly complex fields. Again, it's a huge claim with very little basis in the actual documented state of German science at the time. They were advanced, yes, but that advanced. Highly unlikely.
Okay, so if we assume for a moment this thing, in some form, might have existed, what happened to it? The theories about its fate are just as varied.
They really are. The simplest explanation. Destroyed by the Nazis.
Scorched earth. Prevent capture by the Soviets or Western allies. Makes sense in the context of the war's end?
Definitely a possibility. Or, the flip side, it was captured.
By the Americans, maybe? Under operations like Paperclip, where they snapped up scientists and tech?
That's a popular theory. That it was whisked away to a secret U.S. base, maybe Area 51 or somewhere similar, and the research continued in secret.
Plausible, given the historical context of grabbing German tech.
Then you have the more adventurous theory, South America.
Ah, the Odessa Network legend. Nazis escaping, taking their secrets, including Die Glocke, with them.
It taps into that whole enduring mythology of high-ranking Nazis setting up shop in hiding, plotting a return, or continuing their work.
Adds another layer of global conspiracy to it all.
And finally, the romantic notion. It's still out there, hidden.
Tucked away in an undiscovered bunker in Poland, or maybe deep underground somewhere else, just waiting.
Which, of course, keeps the mystery alive indefinitely. The possibility, however remote, of future discovery.
No, it's really crucial we bring this back down to earth. Let's talk counter-arguments, the reasons for serious skepticism.
Absolutely essential, because the story is compelling, but the foundations are weak. The biggest counter, no physical proof, none.
Zero artifacts, no verifiable blueprints, no wreckage, no confirmed Zerum 525. After all this time and all the interest, nothing concrete has ever surfaced.
That lack of tangible evidence is frankly damning for the theory's credibility. And as we said, de res.
Plausible conventional explanations exist. Maybe underground factories safe from bombing, maybe storage, maybe headquarters. We don't need a wonder weapon to explain it.
Exactly. And the story itself has clearly grown over time. With Kautsky's initial account, then subsequent authors adding layers, interpretations, connections.
It's become embellished, sensationalized,
Yeah.
like a historical urban legend.
That happens easily with these kinds of mysteries. Each retelling adds a bit more spice, a bit more drama.
And fundamentally, the technological hurdle. The physics involved stable anti-gravity, controlled time manipulation in the 1940s.
It just seems wildly implausible given what we know about the scientific and engineering capabilities of that era. Even German science, which was advanced in rockets and jets, wasn't operating on that kind of level based on all available records.
Okay, so as we wrap up this deep dive for today, what's the big picture takeaway on Die Glocke?
Well, it remains this really potent enigma, doesn't it? You've got this alleged bell-shaped thing, whispers of incredible power, dark intentions, links to secret bases.
But ultimately, zero solid proof it was ever real, let alone capable of the things claimed.
Right. And the whole legend is a powerful case study in how speculation, maybe some misinformation, and genuine historical unknowns can combine.
Especially when dealing with a regime like the Nazis, known for both secrecy and advanced, sometimes brutal research. It creates fertile ground for these stories.
It really does. And it serves as a reminder, doesn't it, about the need for critical thinking, for demanding actual evidence when faced with such extraordinary claims, especially historical ones.
Absolutely. So maybe a final thought for you, the listener, to chew on. Why is this idea of secret, super advanced Nazi tech still hold such fascination for us?
What does our continued interest in things like Die Glocke say about how we view history, the potential of science both good and bad, and maybe just the allure of a really good mystery?
Something to think about.